Hi there, and welcome to a fresh episode of the program Last Week in Nigeria, your one-stop shop for all the news items that were reported by national dailies last week in Nigeria. My name is Emmanuel Oriowo. Welcome on board. We'll try as much as possible to remind you about following us on all our social media handles. Don't forget to use the handle at Last Week in Nigeria. Log on to our website www.lastweekinnigeria.com. Visit our YouTube channel, Last Week in Nigeria TV. Like, share, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and then you get notification about our subsequent episodes on this program. We want to report the stories, beginning with this one from the Sunday Vanguard, Last Week in Nigeria. And it has this boldly captioned headline. And it says, huge job losses as 16 multinationals exit Nigeria in 3 years. Sunday Punch reported blackout hits states as power generation drops to 70 megawatts. Also, we have this one reported Samoa agreement, FG spits fire. That particular agreement has been generating a lot of reactions. We've had the Daily Trust newspaper apologizing about the way they reported the story, the government taking their own stand, and Nigerians are also pitching their tent towards something they believe in. Whose report do we believe in? The Nation newspaper is still talking about Samoa agreement. No clause on LGBT, $150 billion for Nigeria. We're speaking here, Bagudu. That's the way the Nation newspaper captioned it. This Day newspaper, on Army Day, Tinubu hails soldiers, says Nigeria Army is the pride of the nation. That's the way the This Day newspaper captioned it. The Sunday Independent newspaper says, renewed wave of terror, arms importation, put more pressure on military. And we have this one from the Business Day newspaper on Sunday reported that Nigerian housewives turn mathematicians in kitchen as food crisis hit households. That's interesting. Wives now mathematicians. Of course, giving your wife a 10,000 naira for household keeping, you guys will have to deal with a lot of mathematics and arithmetic solving. Bold moves to counter Amawile-led Assembly's 7-day ultimatum, talking about Fubara fights in Rivers State. That's the way First newspaper captioned it last week in Nigeria. The Matrix newspaper brought us this one, still on river crisis. Again, fresh twists emerge. And that was reported by virtually all the newspapers last week in Nigeria. Let's move now to the Vanguard newspaper where we have this one concerning food crisis. And it says, FG opts for duty-free imports of rice, beans, wheat, other grains. That was the way the Vanguard newspaper captioned it. FG suspends food imports duty, partner states on farming. That's how the Punch newspaper reported it last week. The Daily Trust newspaper had this one on the front page last week. It says, pressure mounts on FG to release Nnamdi Kanu. Why we are subsidizing 19 airports. That's a statement credited to FAN. And that was reported by the Business Time newspaper last week in Nigeria. Says only 3 Nigeria airports are profitable. Majority of 22 airports managed by FAN require upgrade of critical infrastructure. That's how the Business Times newspaper reported that story last week in Nigeria. Suspend Samoa's agreement implementation, Reps tells FG. Now for the Vanguard newspaper, 400 billion naira oil production shortfall threatens 2024 budget. You might be asking, which of the budget? The Daily Sun newspaper says, food crisis. Senate warns of nationwide protest, says food reserves empty. There we go. We've been talking about this food security for a while now. It's now establishing itself as food insecurity. Maybe someone is supposed to do what he or she is supposed to do, and that person has failed to do what he or she is supposed to do. Or collectively, Nigerians, we have failed to do what we're supposed to do. Well, by and large, there's enough blame to go around. Daily Independent newspaper, it says, take emergency measures to end hunger. Senate tells FG. That's how the Daily Independent captioned it last week in Nigeria. Tinubu kicks off reform, development of livestock sector, creates a ministry. Now we now have a Ministry of Livestock. You might be wondering, what about the Ministry of Agriculture? Isn't that supposed to be an embodiment of all products concerning agricultural products? Nigeria, the intrigues are just unlimited. That's the way the Nigerian Tribune captioned it. We now have a livestock ministry. Food import success lies on avoiding past hurdles. That's the way that Business Day captioned it. And this one says, hardship, address food crisis to avoid anger, said it once FJ. That's by the New Telegraph newspaper. And bringing you more stories, we had this reported last week in Nigeria, Rivers crisis, as reported by the Daily News Hub. We have this one, 26 pro-Wike lawmakers gone forever. We're speaking here. The governor of Rivers State, Fubara, is saying they are gone forever, irrespective of the court judgments. The Nation newspaper says federal government kicks off food security emergency plan. And the Matrix newspaper has this one. It says, hashtag EndSARS protest. At last, justice is served. You want to know why? ECOWAS court finds FG guilty of rights violation, orders FG to pay DJ Switch, two others 2 million naira compensation each, as Amnesty International hails ECOWAS court ruling on rights violation. That was how the Matrix newspaper captioned it. All of that was reported last week in Nigeria. Official. FG unveils bold 180-day plan to crash food prices. And Nigerians are still waiting to see the effect of that, because the FG projects massive food price crash come January 2025. Well, I know they finish. The Blueprint newspaper has this one. Ariwola warns against conflicting judgments concerning the Edo-Ondo governorship polls. And you also recall that last week in Nigeria, the judiciary became the star sector in the news for saying the autonomy of local government should be obeyed. In other words, monies of local governments will be going straight to the coffers of the local government. Come to think of it, most of this local government in virtually all the states across the federation still have the local government and chieftaincy affairs domiciled under the state government to report to in a way. Will the governor still have a way of cutting the corners to having access to their funds? Or the local government and chieftaincy affairs local government ministries across the states will simply allow the state government? So we now need to think, will the state governors, having the state ministry of local government and chieftaincy affairs in each of the states across the federation, will the local government still have to report to them through them to know how to handle the affairs of this autonomy? Anyway, there's a Supreme Court judgment in place already. So let's see how that pans out and how it plays out. But well, come to think of it, the people are closer to the local government because the local government is supposed to be closer to the grassroots. Let's hope that development will begin from there and state governors will just keep their hands off. Keep the conversation going. At the comment section, let's know what you feel about this particular issue. More stories for you. Federal government names Ojude Oba's King of Steez, Farouk Oreagba, as cultural ambassador. So we say congratulations to him, the man that brought out the steez from the Ojude Oba Festival. Away from the entertainment gist, let's bring you some sporting stories. As reported by the National Daily, the Punch Sports Extra had this one on the front page, reported last week. Worst to best, how Nigeria fared at Olympic Games since 1952. That was the particular sporting gist that you needed to check out for. And still from the Punch Sport Extra, massive drop. Eagle squad value depreciates from £343 million to £252 million. What a drop. And this one says PSG seeks 34 billion naira reduction in Osimhen transfer fee. That was by the Sporting Sun, and that was reported last week in Nigeria. Dele Bashiru joins Lazio. That's how the Punch Sports Extra captioned it. On that note, we want to say a big thank you to you for joining us on this episode of the program. Kindly join me next week for a fresh episode. And I want to say from all of us here, on behalf of the entire production crew, my name is Emmanuel Oriowo, asking you to stay cool, stay safe. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media handles using at Last Week in Nigeria. Don't forget to log onto our website and, of course, our YouTube channel using the notification button so that you can get subsequent episodes. Keep the conversation going. Follow us on all our handles. And don't forget to put your money where your mouth is. Advertise your products and services on this program to reach the whole world in one breath. Until next time when I come your way,